Hello, everyone. Welcome to Essentia Foster Care's Foster Care 101 webinar. We are very excited tonight to just be doing this introductory info session to foster care. So if you're new to the world of foster care and looking to learn basic information about what is foster care and what is being a foster parent, this is a great place for you. But also, we're going to talk about some of the unique programs that Essentia offers as well. So before we dive into some of that, I did also want to just introduce Essentia. So Essentia Care Alliance is one of the largest human services organizations in New England. But this evening, we'll be focusing on our foster care programs in Massachusetts. But Essentia also has operations in New Hampshire. They have a therapeutic foster care program there that might interest folks. And we offer all kinds of different services at Essentia as well, such as a language bank, refugee resettlement through Services for New Americans program, services for adults with disabilities, and we also operate some nursing home facilities. So that's a little bit about Essentia, but thank you for being with us and for learning about foster care this evening. So a little bit of housekeeping before we go too far. We have been using this GoToWebinar software just to keep things secure and easy for our webinars. So if it's your first time using this webinar platform, your video and audio is disabled. We can't see or hear attendees, but you can see and hear us, the staff that are on the webinar this evening. We do still want to hear from you, so if you do have any questions, comments, or just want to say hello, you can put that over in the chat, which you can see here is in the bottom of the control panel. So that's a bit of housekeeping, and here's our agenda, which Fatima is going to review.
Yes, so today during this webinar, we are going to talk about the basics of foster care. So we're going to start with our introductions and what each of our roles are. We're going to go over intensive foster care and also the unaccompanied refugee minors program. And then lastly, we're going to go over the steps to become a foster parent. And we're going to have some time at the end to go over some questions if you have any.
Great, thank you, Fatima. So we'll try to wrap up by 6:30, but we do have a lot we want to cover. So we're moving right along here. To introduce myself, my name is Colleen Schropp, and I am the Community Outreach Manager at Essentia Foster Care, or Essentia Children and Family Services, which basically just means that I oversee the recruitment of our foster parents, volunteers, and donors, and I've been with the agency for 5 years.
And my name is Fatima Seda, and I'm one of the foster parent recruitment coordinators under the unaccompanied refugee minors program at Essentia. So I work with Colleen, and there are 3 more other recruiters in our team. This is about my 3rd month as a recruiter, but about 2 years ago, I used to be a case manager for the unaccompanied refugee minors program. So I am familiar with what the needs are and what the kids that you might be working with, who they would be. But yes, so we can go to the next one.
Great. So to start us off this evening, I just wanted to share, really when we talk about foster care and the basics of foster care, it's important to understand some of the data that is out there about foster care. So unfortunately, in the United States, there are approximately 400,000 children in foster care. Children enter and exit care every single day. And usually this is as a result of social workers becoming aware of suspected child abuse or neglect happening to a child, investigating that, and ultimately in extreme cases, children at times need to be removed in order to keep them safe. That is not the first step. Foster care is also for providing services to birth families, so giving them resources in order to stabilize the family. But when that is not possible, we do have this large number of children that are entering care because it's in their best interests to keep them safe. Foster care is meant to be temporary. The goal for the majority of children in foster care, of these thousands that you see in this number, is to be reunified with birth family. So that is certainly the goal. And even when children are entering care and they need to be placed into a foster home, they'll often seek out kin or other adults that the child already knows to place them with, because we do want to preserve families and we do want to give children that sense of stability and permanency with adults that they already know. And then more localized with Massachusetts, where Essentia Foster Care operates, there are approximately 10,000 children in foster care. So some years that's closer to 9,000, some years it's closer to 10, but as you can see, this is affecting thousands of children and thousands of families. And we really can't do this work without individuals in the community who are willing to step up and provide this temporary care in order to support children. So the foster care system replaced orphanages. Before foster care in the United States, that was the alternative, was having children live in these really large group settings in orphanages. So foster care is the system that has been developed in the United States in order to protect children. And it's not possible without foster parents. So that is what I'll say in terms of introducing us into this world of foster care. Moving right along, and I apologize if I am having any audio issues or any glitches, I apologize. I'm gonna trudge along, hopefully you can hear me all right. But in terms of Essentia specifically, so Essentia is actually a private agency. We are a nonprofit, and we operate 2 of our own foster care programs. So the first that I'm going to talk about is intensive foster care. So intensive foster care exists in order to serve those same children I was talking about with foster care, but especially those that might have what we consider to be higher level needs. So we'll talk about what that means. So in the context of the statewide system in Massachusetts, we do work closely with the state child welfare, known as the Department of Children and Families, DCF, in order to place children into this level of care. Referrals for intensive foster care come to us from the state. So it is the department that's identifying whether or not a child might need more support, such as what is offered by intensive foster care. So IFC, when we talk about it, we use that acronym a lot. So IFC stands for intensive foster care. This also has a couple different names. It's also known as comprehensive foster care or therapeutic foster care. So different states use different terms and different agencies use different terms, but all of those things are the same. It's this individualized service that we provide to children in order to maintain children in a family setting while they're in foster care. And there's a team from IFC that wraps around the child, which includes the foster parent, family specialist, and family supervisor, all of whom work closely with any other adults in the child's life, like DCF social workers, therapists, mentors, and anyone else that might be supporting the child, such as in school or clinically. And so who do we serve? So youth from IFC can range in age from 0 to 22, but in reality, we see very few children under the age of 5. Most of our children are school age. The average age is around 8 to 10 years old. And we do also serve some older adolescents and young adults that are able to stay in the program voluntarily when they turn 18. And these are youth that have, unfortunately, as I was discussing earlier, they have been removed from their birth families due to severe abuse and neglect, where it was necessary to place them into foster care. It could also be due to a disrupted adoption or voluntary placement. which can be a little more complicated. But in most cases, children that are in this program have experienced trauma, and it's been determined by the state that they do have these additional needs that can range from emotional needs, behavioral needs, developmental or medical challenges. So we're not just talking about children that have what we might think of as special needs. We're also talking about children just that have experienced trauma, that have been through a lot at a young age. So youth that perhaps are struggling academically, maybe they have some speech challenges, maybe they are on an IEP, maybe they have an ADHD diagnosis, and also children that might be struggling with their mental health, whether that's with an anxiety disorder, depression. So every child is very different and their needs are very different. And really what we emphasize at this level of care is providing more support. So that's our motto at IFC, that with more needs comes more support. So I'll talk more later about what those supports are that we provide to our foster families and children. This is distinct from more traditional or regular foster care.
Thank you,
Now I'll turn
Colleen.
it over, to Fatima.
Yes, and like Colleen mentioned before, Centria has two programs for foster care, intensive foster care, and the unaccompanied refugee minors program. So I'm gonna, in the next few slides, I'm gonna go over more of the details of what that is. But essentially, Centria is the only agency in New England that offers this program for unaccompanied refugee minors. So now I'm gonna talk about more about who is an unaccompanied refugee minor, or URM. URM stands for unaccompanied refugee minors, and that would be a child or adolescent who has come to the U.S. seeking safety or resources without a parent or a guardian to take care of them. This adolescents and children can have different legal status, so they can be considered refugees or asylees. They could be victims of traffic. They could have a special immigrant juvenile status, or they can also be Afghan humanitarian parolees. Most of the kids who come this way, they vary, like their origins are very different. They come from over 25 different countries, but I would say most of them do come from Spanish-speaking countries, and specifically the Northern Triangle, so Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. But we've had kids from all different countries all over the world. Then the program in itself, it has a goal for these kids and adolescents to become very independent at the end of the program. So we aim that they develop the skills that they need in order to live independently once they reach adulthood. And this could either be done by, just starting with learning English, finishing high school. Then if they are interested in going to college, they can do that as well. And along the way, Centria is going to be there to help them reach those goals. So I would say, for example, with English, when they first arrive, they have the option of getting tutors through different programs in the afternoons. Then if they want to go to college, they can, they get the help to attend, and they can choose to stay in the program, like Colleen mentioned before, once they turn 18. So we at Centria really try our best to, offer the resources that they need in order to become independent once they become adults. And now, in order to participate in either one of these two programs, intensive foster care or the unaccompanied refugee minors, there are a few steps that you would have to do in order to become a licensed foster parent. And even though it sounds like it is a lot, and it does take some time, and it's a lot of details and documentation, it is all very worth it in the end. But this is a very basic summary of what that would look like if you're interested in becoming a foster parent. So the first step is always going to be the inquiry part. So we would have a phone call with you. You would talk to us, one of the recruiters, and you would hear more about the program. We give you all the details that you need to know, and we would also ask you a few questions about your background and like what if you have that an extra room in your house, which is one of the requirements. And just simple questions as to like why you're interested in becoming a foster parent, because we want to get to know you, and we also want to make sure that you would actually be a good fit and you would qualify for the application part. So you don't have to go through the whole process. If, for example, like one thing wouldn't make you qualify, we don't want to waste your time basically like filling out the entire application beforehand. The next step, so if we determine that, yes, we can move on to the application, we would meet with you and complete the application. And the application is very basic. We only ask for information about your family, your home, for references, and we ask for consent to complete the background checks. So we submit the application at that point. Then we run the background checks, which would be the third step. We complete the query, which is just a regular background check. Then that would be the Massachusetts background check. We also look for 151A history with DCF because we want to make sure that there's not been any like violent history with you and DCF in the past. We want to make sure that the home would be really good for the kids, and also fingerprinting. And just know that anyone in the home who is 15 years or older, they would also have to complete the background check. After completing this step, we would go to the training part. So you have to complete the Massachusetts Approach to Partnerships in Parenting, or MAP, which is the training that the state provides. It's an online training for the most part. And I know it used to be in person, but now it's moved over to fully online. It's 6 weeks long and the classes are about 3 hours. So this is one of the requirements to become a foster parent. And once you complete the training, then we would move over to the caregiver assessment, which is like a home study conducted by a social worker that is assigned to you. So the social worker will come to your house and they would get to know you. They would have a conversation with you to learn more about you and your family and what your parenting style is and all those kind of questions, but also kind of to inspect the home to make sure that, you know, it's in good conditions and that everything is good and ready to go in case the application does get approved at the end. And once this step is finished, then we would move over to the licensing part. So this is when we would gather the final pieces of documentation that you need. The social worker does this. And for example, if you have a dog as a pet, this is where we would get like the vaccination record for your dog that we would have to submit to the state to make sure that the application goes through. And this is also when we contact your references to make sure that you would be in fact a good foster parent for Accentria. And lastly, it's the matching. Well, actually, I missed one step, the matching step. This is where the referral and intake team reviews potential placements for you. So even though we really try our best to, you know, find you a youth or a child or adolescent who is going to fit your interests and similar, you know, have similar likings. This is not always the case, but we really try our best to find the best matches for someone who will get along with you. But just know that, again, we try our best, but it's not always possible. But I would say most, like all of our kids are really nice. So there's never a wrong person to get. And lastly would be the placement. So this is when the real journey begins. A child is placed into your home and they become part of your family, and you begin the whole journey. And it might be a little overwhelming and you know, it's stressful. It's a new person in your home, but Accentria is there for you the whole entire time. So we offer a lot of different supports that Colleen is going to go over in a bit. But yeah, so I know it sounds like a lot of steps and a lot of work. And like I said, it does take some time, but once it's over, it's definitely worth it. So yeah, and now Colleen is going to go over the different types of support that Accentria offers.
Great, thank you, Fatima. Hopefully my audio is okay. Oops, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, always the technical difficulties, right? So
Yeah.
For the support for foster parents, I know we've thrown a lot of information at you, and if you couldn't tell already, one thing to take away from Foster Care 101 is that there's a dire need for foster parents. So a lot of this information is geared towards wanting people to consider stepping up and opening their home to a youth or a child as a foster parent. that truly is the biggest need, and that truly makes the biggest impact. So we would definitely encourage you to consider this. If you're being called to this, answer the call. Now is the time. There is really a need. And also, we hope that a takeaway from this webinar is the fact that there are different types of foster care. So for a long time, maybe you thought that there was just one type of foster care and that was it. And really, there's a lot of different options out there. So there's the state level care provided by the Department of Children and Families. And then there's agencies like us and that provide the intensive foster care. And as Fatima said, we're actually the only agency in Massachusetts providing the unaccompanied refugee minors program, working with immigrant youth. So there really are different options. Sometimes foster care is short-term, sometimes it's more long-term. So whatever your preferences are, chances are that's something we can discuss with you over the phone during that first step that Fatima was talking about to see what's a fit. But if there is going to be another takeaway from this webinar, let it be that foster parents are not in this alone. There's a lot of hands-on support for foster parents. Unlike in traditional parenting or biological parenting, when you have that baby and you bring that baby home from the hospital, that's it. That baby's yours. You're kind of on your own besides whatever support system you might have. So a real benefit of being a foster parent, especially at an agency like Essentia, is we pride ourselves on really high quality support. So we are your support system. We are there for you. So foster parents have a variety of support. First and foremost, foster parents do receive financial support. The cost of living in Massachusetts is no joke. It keeps increasing. So foster parents do receive a daily reimbursement for the costs associated with caring for the child. This covers things like food, utilities, and then there's also a clothing allowance provided to purchase new clothing for the youth, as well as providing health insurance to the youth. So if that's a barrier for you, know that there is financial support. We also have a 24/7 on-call emergency line. So quite literally, there is always somebody available to you for support. It could be Saturday at 2 a.m. If there is an urgent concern or an emergency, there is somebody available to you here at Essentia. We also do monthly or weekly check-ins with our parents, depending on the program that you're in. These usually look like visits in person to your home. In the intensive foster care program, one of the biggest differences between intensive foster care and other types of care is that that visit is once a week. So that is where there's a lot of hands-on support, because with more needs at IFC comes more support, and that's really our motto. So a lot of that stems from a weekly visit rather than we also do monthly support groups with our foster parents. So a big part of your support system is other foster parents. You know, I've been at Essentia for almost 5 years, but I've never been a foster parent. So there's scenarios where I can't even guide you as well as some of our seasoned foster parents. We have parents that have been doing this work for over 18 to 20 years. So those are really the people who are great to go to for advice. And so we have support groups set up for you guys to network with one another. We also provide ongoing training on things like trauma-informed parenting, behavior management, CPR classes, whatever it might be. We provide training opportunities to our parents so that they can keep building those skills and feeling more confident. We also do family fun events. That's unique to our agency. I don't know how many other agencies do this, but we're really proud to have gatherings for our foster parents. So especially at the unaccompanied refugee minors program, we find that since it is so unique, we find it's really impactful to gather all of the kids and all of the families together. So about 3 times per year, we throw events seasonally. So we do a winter ball, we do a spring fling, we do a summer barbecue. So really providing that that experience for our families to come together is something we enjoy here at Essentia. And then finally, we do provide referrals for needed services. So sometimes we can't do it all, right? We're just one agency. So if we feel that you could benefit or your child. You know, if the child in care could benefit from therapeutic services, behavior services, you know, occupational therapy, or maybe it's more of a need for, you know, extracurriculars, we provide referrals and we help connect you with any resources that might benefit you. So that wraps up our webinar this evening. I think in the interest of time, we are actually out of time for questions, so I do apologize for that. What we would really encourage you to do is get in touch with us after today's webinar. We would be happy to answer questions with you one-on-one, but I will turn it over to Fatima now just to talk about the other ways that you can help, unless that's what I'm going to cover to wrap up. I forget.
Yes, that was you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, so I did want to leave you with, yes, we need foster parents, but there are other ways that you can help. So if you really are feeling like you want to contribute, you want to help children in care, you're not sure how, that's part of my job, is to identify those needs and match volunteers with those needs. So if you're interested in volunteering, that is definitely an option, especially if you have any experience with tutoring. We do have a pretty big need for volunteer tutors. Also, maybe you work in a business, or maybe you own a business and could provide some internship opportunities to our young adults. That's definitely a need, maybe more of a unique idea. We also we are a nonprofit, so we accept donations. Financial contributions are welcome to support, whether it's to support a young person's activities or to support our program in general, we would welcome that. And finally, we do accept donated items. So we do have a list that I could share with anyone who's interested of our most needed items for our youth, and that's something we're updating regularly, just to ensure that we you know, gather that from the community when it's beneficial.
Yes, and that's a wrap up for today. Thank you so much for coming, and we really hope you consider becoming a foster parent. So if you would like more information, or like Colleen said, if you have any questions, we can talk to you one-on-one. You can see on the screen Colleen's information and mine. If you know someone too who only speaks Spanish, I also speak Spanish, so they can contact me as well. And if you are not ready to meet with us, you can also visit our website on acentria.org. And yes, so thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. I am going to end the webinar, but look out for a follow-up email to share the recording and also for our contact information. So thank you all and take care.